for joining us on Women in Leadership. My name is Lillian Muli, and tonight, once again, Citizen Weekend bringing you a Coast edition. This is a special, and tonight we are looking at women in leadership here in the coastal region. As the 2017 general election draws closer, the coast region continues to witness an increase in women's political participation. There's a rise in the list of serious, determined and focused female contenders who are now gearing up for battle in the polls. A number of them are seeking to run for elective posts and are staying away from the freebies tag that is associated with nominated positions. Tonight in studio with me is Honorable Hazel Katana. She's the Deputy Governor, Mombasa County. Thank you very much for joining us. And also with me tonight is nominated MP Kwale, Honorable Zuleika Hassan. Thank you for joining me in studio. I want to start by giving you a profile of Honorable Hazel Katana, Deputy Governor, Mombasa County. Honorable Katana is an economics and sociology degree holder. She previously worked as UN Women Communications Advisor, and before that with the Nation Media Group in corporate affairs and public relations. I want to start by asking you how your background in corporate affairs and in PR landed you a job as Deputy to Governor 001.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the show. Where do I start? Landing the job, I think the governor had to nominate a running mate, and at that time I was based in Rwanda, Kigali, with the UN Women, and of course as I came in it wasn't landing, but I was interviewed for the position of Deputy Governor. Interviewed in the sense that they really needed to understand and to know more, and with my background in communication and PR, and even previously with development world, I think, as you are aware, with PR you get out there and you get yourself seen, and so I think that was a plus for me, because as he came and we talked and we agreed, and I said yes, I will be. And it was all systems go. That's how we met.
So the governor nominated you as his deputy, but I want to talk about the fact that deputy governors in some counties have been known to lament that their bosses overshadow them. Your diary is not really so clear. A lot of people even describe the female deputy governors as flower girls, saying that the chunk of the duties go to the governor. What's your response to that?
Okay, what I can tell you is, and even if you look at the constitution, clearly it says that deputy governor will deputize the governor. But depending on the governor you are working with, I cannot actually say that. My diary is very full, because my governor lets me be. I represent him in meetings and in the departments. As we work, it's a team effort. And so for me, as a deputy governor, I have to be proactive. You remember we had a manifesto. We knew this is what we want to bring to the residents and the people of Mombasa. And so that alone should have me having a very, very busy diary. Because then all I'm doing is complementing every other thing that my governor is doing, and even with the departments in my county.
The disparity in the proportion of men to women, particularly the deputy governors being only 3 here in the coast region. I'm talking about Taveta County, that's Mary Ndwiga, and also Kwale County. Only 3 of you. So what do you think lies behind this disparity? And not only as deputy governors, but really in terms of leadership positions across the political divide, and even in leadership positions in the corporate world here at the coast.
As you're aware, many times this has been looked at as a man's kind of work. Politics has always been given to men as their kind of work. But now as we came in, and when you look at our constitution, when we were campaigning, I remember somebody did ask, why, Deputy Governor, you women have been given your positions as women representatives? So that alone, the civic education that was done when we came in with the new constitution was a bit lacking, because then we needed to push more and tell the women it's not about a woman being a woman rep, it's not about a member of parliament being a man, but it's about for us to present ourselves so that we can go in for the elective positions. And so I would have pushed further for civic education, and just to sort of make the women out there come out and come for these positions.
And we must thank the Deputy Governor of Mombasa County for granting us this interview. We did try to get in touch with the other female deputy governors in the region, but they were unable to make it. I want to cross over to nominated MP Kwale Honorable Zuleika Hassan, who studied at the University of Cape Town, South Africa, and holds a bachelor's in social science and development and social transformation. And currently her focus includes legislation, oversight and representation of the youth in Parliament. Thank you for joining us. I want to start with the fact that in Kwale County there is only one elected woman, and that's the woman rep Zainab Chizuga. What does 2017 hold for women in that county in terms of leadership?
Okay, in addition to that, there are also, out of 20 wards, there are also 20 male MCAs. So far,
20 male MCAs, not a single female.
Yes, so it's 20 out of 20. Although we've had a female member of parliament previously in Msambweni, Honorable Marere there, but I think largely it's because of socialization, and as in other parts of the country where you grow up, the woman's place is, you know, in the house, it's domestic, it's not in politics, so it's not in leadership. I think you'd also see now, if you have like council of elders in many places around the country as well as the coast, it's usually just fully men. So society still views leadership positions as basically male dominated. Sometimes some people say maybe it's the Muslim culture, but I know within the Muslim culture there is space for women leaders there. But as I said, Kwale did try out with a female member of parliament. I haven't heard of women coming up for other, like, the constituency seats. Because I think, you know, society is still slowly accepting in Kwale, so I don't see it happening. But maybe MCAs, there are more members of the county assemblies female running in the coming election.
And tonight, by the way, use the hashtag #1on1, hashtag women in leadership. We're looking at how top women aspirants in the coast region are breaking cultural and political barriers ahead of next year's polls. I want to direct this question to you. You brought a motion before Parliament to fund the National Youth Council. I had touched earlier about youth radicalization, and the story that Hassan Mugambi aired before, you know, was predominantly about radicalization of the youth in the coast region. Why the youth fund, and why is there none currently that is anything to write home about?
Okay, so with radicalization, I think with other criminals, it's with other crimes, it's happening. You'll find radicalization, I think, with also other youth coming from other parts of the country as well. But for me, the first thing when I knew I was going to be nominated, and it's something that I actively went for, and I managed to succeed, the first thing that I wanted to do was to make sure that the National Youth Council Act was implemented, because it came in after the 2007-2008 post-election violence. When we had Kofi Annan in the country, they said that we need to keep young people active in the development process in the country, and this is one of the best ways to do it. But unfortunately, this government hasn't supported the National Youth Council, and they've seen it more fit to put more money in the National Youth Service than the National Youth Council. And I feel if that act, because it's there since 2009, if it's implemented fully, a lot of these problems will go, because you're creating leaders like youth barazas all the way from like the village level to the national level, where young people are elected. So they're elected by their peers, and they'll be able to discuss what their problems are. They can share that horizontally to the leadership, and then they can share it also, you know, vertically to the national government. And then the leaders will also know what the kind of things the young people want to do.
And before I cross over to Mheshimiwa, I want to talk about earlier this year, you having a little of a tiff, and I think Senator Zani was also involved there, where you were quoted as saying teenage pregnancies and early marriages were on the rise in Kwale County, and this did not augur too well with sections of leadership there, sections of the male leadership there. How big an issue is this in the county?
Okay, it's a very big issue, early pregnancies in Kwale, and with Senator Zani, we're part of an organization called Kenya Women Parliamentarians. So we thought that this was the best topic to come and discuss with leaders in Kwale County, because you know, early pregnancies and early marriages make it difficult for girls to continue with education, and you see that poverty levels of that mother later on are higher than people who've had a little bit of chance in education. I think with the male leaders who came in, I think it was more political. Maybe they thought we wanted their position, because I wouldn't think that they'd support something like that happening to their own children, to their own girls. Yeah.
Okay, and let me cross over to the Deputy Governor of Mombasa County, Hazel Katana. You have made your mark in your capacity as Deputy Governor Mombasa County, but we know that the governor's seat it's a men-only club currently in the country. We know that so far Ruth Odinga has expressed her interest to vie for Kisumu Governor. Joyce Laboso is eyeing the Bomet, Cecily Marira in Embu, and so forth. What are your plans as regards the governor's seat? Do you plan to take on the governor head-on, at least in the next poll?
No, we are a strong team. I stay as a team, and I'll support my governor as the deputy governor. Because as you look at what we've done in Mombasa and what we've worked, we have a lot of programs that are running, a lot of successful programs that are running. And it's only prudent that we continue to make this a success. And so a strong team sticks together.
So currently you're happy in your position, but you have political plans?
Yes, because you see, if you look at the space that we were given, the governor goes for 2 terms. I support my governor for the 2 terms. And yes, God willing, I come in and I also want to vie for governor.
That is in 2022.
Exactly, God willing.
Okay, so Mheshimiwa Katana here has at least given us a hint of what her plans are. Let me turn over to you, and this is on the issue of the rights of Muslim girls to wear the hijab in school. You started this journey in Parliament, and you're behind the recent court ruling in favor of girls wearing the hijab to school. Was this an issue? Were girls actually being denied the right to wear the hijab?
Yeah, so I have a distant cousin. She's called Kibibi, but I've been helping her study since she was growing up. And once she was going to Form 1, she went to the school, and then her uncle had taken her there, and he came back saying that he had to come back with the hijab, had to come back with the buibui, had to come back even with her clothes, her wraps, her lessons for praying. So I was really shocked that this is happening in our country. So the more I complained and tried to look for a resolution, the more I realized that the problem was really, really big. Like in many secondary schools, they are not allowed to, even some primary schools. So I went to Parliament and I requested a statement from the Cabinet Secretary for Education, and they answered back saying that in 2009 they had a circular to all schools saying that they should allow students, Muslim students, to have hijab. But then they were not enforcing it. You know, it's just a circular and that's it. So, and there were all these cases I think you have in the media of problems. So in the middle of that, then the Isiolo case came up. So then we thought the best way, let's just go to court, you know, because the Constitution is very clear in Article 27 that you can't discriminate on grounds of religion and so on. It's very clear. So we got some money from Muslim MPs, you know, got money together. We got some lawyers, Moza and Ali, to do pro bono work for us. We just had to pay for their logistics. They went the first time, they lost the case. The second time, you know, with the appeal, that's when we won. And that's like historical for Kenya. It's never happened
civic
before.
Education as well, because I'm not sure a lot of people are even aware of this court ruling. So that needed. So you also supported calls for constitutional amendment to allow the country to adopt a system of rotational presidency. You feel that minority groups, I suppose you would describe Kwale as having minority groups living there, deserve a chance to ascend to the highest office. You were behind this as well.
Yeah, it's still coming up. It's in the administrative process in Parliament. But the big reason is, you know, social media reading young people saying that this tribe cannot be president or never be president. That's not right. Everybody needs a chance at the presidency. And you know, when somebody has the highest position in government, that community also associates itself with that. You'd see with Obama being black, and the images of him and young black kids touching his ear and saying a black person can also be president. So we need that in our country. So far it's been 2 communities who've been president. So I'm asking that let's have a rotation as in other countries. In Tanzania they do it silently, but in like Switzerland, Comoros, they have it in their constitution.
And Hazel, to you, when we talk about the coast region, we talk about tourism a lot, but we know there's the issue of drug abuse amongst the youth. There's the girl child that, like we're saying, not a lot of leadership opportunities being given there to the girl child and to the woman. For you as Deputy Governor, what have you done as regards strides in terms of women, the woman and her empowerment?
Yeah, thank you. For the girl child, and that one was something that was very dear to my heart. And as you know, when we were a municipality, before we became a county, most of the programs to do with the girl child were within the island of Mombasa. But then we moved out and we have constituencies. We also have a rural constituency in the likes of Kisauni that extends up to Makirunge. I'll tell you a short story. There was a girl walking to school one morning, and you know when the maize grows, and it's tall maize, and she was coming in, and there was a man out there, grabbed this little girl and raped her. And so when I was told the story, I got thinking, what can I do? Because she needs an education. She was coming to school, and the idea came up that I should just work on building a dormitory for the girls. So I went to the corporates in Mombasa, and they were able to get funding, and went to the church. And the church came in and said, okay, for every million we raise, they'll also raise $1 million. As I speak to you now, and I'm very proud to say, the dormitory now houses 85 girls. Of course, it has a capacity of about 120, which is based actually in the rural. Only because I wanted to increase level of literacy among the girls in Mombasa County. Because when she comes to school and then she goes home, she's still the little girl is going to wash dishes, going to take care of the others. But as I house her in this dormitory, she's able to have her preps, she's able to concentrate on her education as she's there. And that's also increasing the grades for this girl child. And so for me, that was key. Even for the women out there, we have the skills centers that we're setting up. For the youth, we got a funding recently from Sweden, and we are setting up rural libraries. Because as you know, the Kenya National Library, in some instances, has always concentrated on the cities. And so now, in partnership with them and the Swedish government and SIDA, we are moving the rural libraries to the village. So that even those schools out there, people can access, you know, not just storybooks, but educational books, even curriculum studies in the libraries. And so it's all about enhancing the education of women, the girls, and the youth in Mombasa County.
And one of the more prominent women leaders in the coast region is Zainab Chizuga, who Zuleika Juma here, rather Zuleika here says that she will be unseating, she will be attempting to unseat come the next general
Your initial
election.
sentence was more correct. Rather be unseating rather than attempting.
Let's God willing. I mean, it's not happening. Okay. So, yes, your political plans, 2017, you plan to take Zainab Chizuga head on.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to make a comment, because usually we're told, especially if you're members of parliament currently, we should go for constituency seats. But it wasn't my idea to run for this seat. It is the women in the county, in all the 4 constituencies, that pushed me to run. And sometimes it was to an extent where they felt really frustrated that I wasn't making a decision. So then I've decided to run, because I'm listening to what the voter wants, and this is what
what does the voter want?
No, well, they wanted me to run for women rep because they wanted a leader who's going to represent them, because currently the woman of Kwale County doesn't feel represented in parliament or in leadership.
What issues are the women in Kwale County grappling with?
The biggest issue is poverty in general, and one of the #1 things in Kwale is issues of water. There's so many, it's deplorable, you know, there's so many people who don't have access to water, so that needs to be upped. You need somebody who's pushing the different arms of government to be able to get water. I think in our county we're not taking advantage of the agriculture sector that God has given us, the fisheries sector that God has given us, and the livestock. We can have little industries, and now with the Affirmative Action Fund, you're allowed to set up little industries to help the women. So like in the livestock sector, we could have tanning and things like that, and like milk processing, small little milk processing. In agriculture, we could have cashew nut processing, juice making, and so on for the women, coconut milk, and so on happening. In the fisheries, we could have like fish preservation, you know, and fridges to keep fish, you know, longer, and so on, to get money into the pockets of women, and then therefore the families. So yeah, so that's
and we're starting to close. So like I mentioned earlier, there's a sense that nominated women leaders are desperately trying to ward off that freebie tag, that women are now seeking more elective positions. Deputy Governor Hazel, as we close, for you, why would an elective position give you more power as opposed to a nominated one, would you say?
Yes, because one, you've been out there and you've been able to sell yourself to the community. And you've been able to tell them that this is what I can do in elective positions, because then with the push, and in my position, for example, the governor would give me that, that push to be able to go and work out there. When I'm nominated, and I've seen this, it happens, correct me if I'm wrong, when you go out there, the person in that seat who is nominated will say, you have no business coming into my ward. We have 3 elected MCAs in Mombasa County.
Women.
The other women are all nominated. And so the issues that they have and why they kept on calling each other flower girls is because they would want to go and do something in a particular ward, for example, where we have the elected woman, but she wouldn't let that person go in there because why? You only came in. I went round, I asked for the votes, I was voted in, and I was the people's choice. And so that is where this disparity would come in. And so other than wanting to wait to be called a flower girl, yes, let me present myself for this elective position. One, gives me a lot of muscle and power, and maybe a little bit more respect, other than you were just given. Yeah, and that tag, you didn't work for it. You waited and you came and it was handed over to you. But then again, there's nothing much you can do out there because you didn't struggle to be in the seat. Yeah.
For you, why would an elective position give you more power as opposed to what you feel you have now?
First of all, nominated is definitely not a freebie. I had to get into the party. I got into ODM in 2008 during the grassroots election. I made it up and I made it into the National Executive Committee that same year. So I became Deputy Chair for Youth. Later on, I became the National Youth Coordinator based at the Secretariat. I had to prove myself. First of all, before getting through the elective process, and even this, I had to make sure that I was at the pinnacle at that time of the youth, made sure that I'd be the choice rather than a guy would be, to get into this place. So it's definitely not a freebie. And now going into elective, first of all, my party can't nominate me. Not that I'm looking for it, but I like to go for challenges. And I think when you're elected and you have now more people, because then to be nominated was a smaller group making the decision, but to be elected, you have to convince thousands and thousands of people that you're the right person.
Right.
Yeah, and you're given more responsibilities. Yeah,
you have to convince thousands of people. We're closing now. From your view, the scope of leadership across the coast region. What are the highs and what are the lows? What are the shortcomings in your view, and what have been the major wins? Very quickly as we close.
For women, or just generally?
Generally.
I think. Well, for me, I don't see lows. I just see challenges as hurdles to jump through. So I think if you really focus on what you have to do, for me it is like poverty reduction, getting the bottom coming up. At least they have a dignified life. So I think if you're focused in that, all the other hurdles become a non-issue.
Governor Katana, there was some talk at some point that you were having a bit of a tiff with Governor 001. And I'm not talking about his leadership per se, but when you look at the scope of coast politics, the leadership represented across the region, what would you say have been the major wins, and where do you think there still remains a gap?
Okay, the major wins, and if you go around and look at what we have done as Governor 001, Joho, and the Deputy Governor, look around Mombasa and see what we've done, just as we had promised in our manifesto. The health sector, water, roads and infrastructure, youth, gender and sports. Even agriculture this time, I always told that there's no agriculture in Mombasa County, but we have done major wins. The challenge has been, maybe the funding, maybe the budget, it's never enough. But then we as a county have been able to raise our revenues here in Mombasa, as opposed to the time when we came in. We make now comfortably as a county 30 to 40 million in a month from those revenue areas that we had not explored in the past. And so one big plus for us is the governor and the members of parliament that we have complement each other. Because as you know, the parliamentarians, they have their CDF, they have their fund. And so from grassroots, we have the ward representative. We had a ward administrator who will bring it to the ward, bring it to the member of parliament. It will come to the CEC of that particular department, and of course to the governor. And so our programs would work in tandem, because then we are all like in an assembly line and each person is doing the work, and it's a great team. And that for me is a plus.
I think the win for us after this conversation is that the fact that these two ladies will be seeking elective positions in the near future. Governor Hazel Katana, Deputy Governor Mombasa County. Hazel Katana, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
She says she'll be running for Governor Mombasa County 2022, so we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And of course, Zuleika Zuleika Hassan, ODM nominated Member of Parliament, Kwale County, also saying that she'll be seeking the women's rep position, Kwale County, that is come next year's poll. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us on Citizen TV. Please continue talking to us using the hashtag #111, hashtag women in leadership. And I must thank Ashley Mungai. Thank you very much for glamming up our crew here at the White Sands Resort, Sarova White Sands Resort. I want to thank Simon Jeroge for my beautiful nails, Jeff Bullason for my hair, and of course Charles for the makeup. Terry Mungai, thank you very much for supporting Citizen Weekend over the years. We thank you. We're crossing over now to a Citizen TV studios where Joy Musangi and Willis Jaburu will be up next with 10 over 10. Remember, tomorrow we remain at the coast. Kanzadena, right before we close. Kanzadena tomorrow, and Lulu Hassan will be... Kanzadena and Lulu Hassan tomorrow will be bringing us Beam Safari right here at the coast. It's going to be an engaging conversation, and of course I will be bringing you Strength of a Woman special at the top of the hour. But before we cross over to Joy and Willis, we'll be joining Mike Okinyi right here at the Sarova White Sands Beach Resort and Spa with all the day's sports. Stay tuned.